Hi, I'm a veterinary doctor specializing in animal nutrition. On this channel, we'll explore science-based pet nutrition tips to help you keep your pets healthy, happy, and well-fed. Have you ever wondered which feeding method is best for your pet? In this video, we'll discuss the different ways to feed dogs and cats. We will examine the benefits and limitations of each method and help you understand which approach is most suitable for your pet. There are several methods of feeding animals, including ad libitum feeding, restricted feeding, choice feeding, phase feeding, scheduled feeding, and sequential feeding. However, from a pet nutrition perspective, our discussion will focus on the three most commonly used feeding methods: ad libitum feeding, restricted feeding, and scheduled feeding. Let's start with ad libitum feeding, which is also known as free feeding or full feeding. In this method, food is made continuously available to the pet throughout the day without any restriction. In other words, a large amount of food is left in the feeding bowl at all times, allowing the pet to eat whenever it chooses. Now, let's look at the advantages of ad libitum feeding. First, it requires very little effort or skill from the pet owner, as food is always available. Second, it minimizes the risk of underfeeding because the pet can eat whenever it feels hungry. Finally, since food is continuously available, it can reduce competition for food and may help decrease food-related aggression, especially in households with multiple pets. However, ad libitum feeding is generally not the best choice for most pets. It gives the owner very little control over the pet's food intake, making it difficult to manage the pet's health and body condition. One of the biggest problems associated with free feeding today is obesity, which can increase the risk of many other health issues. In addition, it can lead to feed wastage, and in some pets, overeating may contribute to digestive problems. Now let's move on to the next and one of the most widely recommended feeding methods for dogs and cats: restricted feeding, also known as controlled feeding. In this method, the amount of food offered is carefully measured and adjusted according to the individual pet's nutritional requirements suggested by your pet doctor. The daily food allowance is calculated based on factors such as the pet's age, body weight, activity level, and health status. Although this daily ration can be divided into 2 or more meals, the total amount of food provided each day remains fixed according to the pet's needs. Now let's look at the advantages of restricted feeding. This method allows precise control over your pet's food intake, making it much easier to maintain an ideal body weight. It also helps reduce the risk of obesity and other nutrition-related metabolic disorders. But it requires proper guidance from a veterinarian or a qualified pet nutrition professional to determine the correct daily food allowance. It also demands consistency, attention, and time from the pet owner to measure and provide the appropriate amount of food at each meal. The next feeding method is time-restricted feeding, also known as fixed schedule feeding. This is one of the most recommended feeding practices for dogs and cats. In this method, food is offered only at specific predetermined meal times. The pet is allowed to eat for a fixed period, after which any remaining food is removed. Pet's daily food allowance is divided into 2 or more meals and offered at specific predetermined times each day. The duration of food access can vary depending on the species. For dogs, food is typically left available for 10 to 30 minutes at each meal. For cats, food may be available for 1 to 2 hours, after which any uneaten food should be removed. It is also recommended to feed your pet in the same location every day, as this helps establish a consistent feeding routine. Ideally, this feeding method should be introduced from an early age, so that pets develop healthy eating habits. Now, let's look at the advantages of time-restricted feeding. This method allows better control and management of your pet's food intake, making it easier to maintain an ideal body weight and prevent obesity. It also helps reduce the risk of nutrition-related metabolic disorders. Feeding your pet at scheduled times can strengthen the bond between you and your pet, as regular meal times become a positive daily interaction. In addition, this feeding method makes future dietary management much easier, especially for pets that require special feeding plans, such as those with diabetes, obesity, or other medical conditions that need controlled food intake. And that's all for today's video. If you found it helpful, please subscribe, support the channel, and click the notification bell for more science-based pet nutrition tips.